How you doing, mate?
Good, man. Yeah, real good. And yourself?
Yeah, good. It's like it's so good to finally get you. It's been a bit of back and forth, but here we are.
There we are.
Um,
Good on ya.
look, hey, let's just start. Why don't you tell us a little story about your brand, something wonderful, and a bit of background about yourself?
Yeah, cool. So I started something wonderful 2.5 years ago now. Prior to that, it had a different name. It was just SW69. And so then it transformed to something wonderful about a year after that. When I kind of started to feel like I was maybe it had run its course for myself and for what I was interested in doing. I went through a bit of stuff and thought it'd be nice to change the name up. And yeah, so we came to something wonderful. Prior to that, I've worked for StreetX in Perth for many years, helping Daniel with his brand just on a retail level, and then helping with pop-ups. And then prior to that, I had an art gallery. That's actually how I met Daniel in Fremantle in Perth.
Yeah, wow, great. So it's a pretty rich history of you got like a lot of different business endeavors as well as some art even. Did
Yeah.
you? Yeah, wow, that's crazy. So how do you feel um, like all of what you've done has led up to where you are now? How has it kind of contributed to form? Is something wonderful sort of like an ultimate Dean package, if you will, or
Absolutely.
is it?
Yeah, that's a really good way of putting it. And yeah, it is. And I think it's very transferable to all my interests and what I've always been into. I've always loved art and I've always loved like streetwear style, as well as being involved in those type of scenes. And yeah, I guess it is an amalgamation of all my interests. And it's just about, for me, trying to maybe express that without looking too cliche or corny. And yeah, hopefully over time, it just that's what it gets expressed. I'm just going to keep on keeping on and doing what I do.
Yeah, cool. And it does really come through in your brand. It's not at all cliche. Look, I absolutely
Thank
love
you.
what you're
Thank you.
doing.
Appreciate that.
But yeah, I don't know. You spoke a bit about streetwear, particularly skate
Yep.
streetwear or that kind of scene. Like, what does that word mean to you? It's interesting. I saw there's this show on Netflix. It's like a fashion show, and people, it's like a reality show, and people like have to. It's like this competition, and they have to kind of create a piece of clothing, and they did streetwear, and yeah, it's. I find it's just defined in so many different ways, just depending on who you talk to, what brand, what show in this context. So, like, what is streetwear to you?
That's a good question. I don't know. I think streetwear is just a label that was put onto maybe what I always thought was just a bit of skate culture. Like it's always been baggy jeans and graphic t-shirts and, sneakers and that type of thing. And then it slowly developed into this thing called streetwear, I guess. But that to me is streetwear, is, skate culture and street culture. But it's moved into fashion, and I guess it's all fashion now, and
Yeah.
that's kind of cool, but it's a real blurred line because there's no limit to where, I guess, a hoodie and a t-shirt can take you anymore.
Yeah, I love that there's no limit, and it really has evolved. Like you see, like even in the last few years, like it's becoming adventure streetwear, like fusions with all different across all corners of the globe, like everything, and it's just so interesting as to what it's become and what it's becoming.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, I think when you have people like Virgil working for Louis Vuitton and a lot of other well-regarded designers working in the fashion scope that have come from streetwear backgrounds or from maybe a skate street culture. Supreme's done a really good job at remaining kind of the people to aim for in the industry by making it exclusive and out of reach, and maybe the price on some of the more exclusive stuff's out of reach as well. And it's like that's fashion, right? Like that's pushing that fashion barrier.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really reaching a lot of markets and a lot of different people nowadays. It's so interesting to me that a piece of clothing could be, priced, something like this, and then it can be, right up there, it just by
absolutely.
it brand image and these types of things. How
and it's also
these brands,
it's like supply and demand. So I mean, if
Yeah.
you're good at what you do, which often I struggle with, is building hype, and a lot of guys do it really well, and some people do it really bad, and then there's people like me that just sit in the middle ground and I don't have any I guess star power behind the pushing the brand at the moment, which definitely helps. It's all about who you know in every industry, and that definitely helps. And lots of people have made it without that, I should add, but yeah, I think it helps to rub shoulders with good people.
Yeah. It's a big game. It's a big game, and like building the hype. I think it's probably, a constant struggle. It's a constant hustle.
Sure.
Trying to build that. But yeah, I just want to go back to a bit of your background when you spoke about SW69. So that was Something Wonderful, your clothing brand, before it was Something Wonderful.
Yeah, it was just an acronym, I guess, an abbreviation.
Yeah. So talk to me a bit about that. Like, what was that? How did it come about, and how did it see its end?
Yeah, cool. So basically, I was on a trip with my friend Daniel, who from StreetX. We're in the States, and I'd been on a few pop-ups, and he pulled me aside and he goes, look, you should probably look at starting your own brand. Like, you've done a lot to help me with my brand. It's something you would definitely be able to do. At that time, I probably wasn't in the mindset of thinking of running my own brand. Anyway, long story short, I came back, started thinking about it, and just kept on kind of eating away at me. I was messing around on Illustrator and Photoshop, kind of just feeling it out, learning how to use it and that type of thing. And I thought, maybe I'll start making some shirts, and just came up with that acronym, and then started making some clothes. And then from that snowballed into, doing a couple of pop-ups, a couple of collaborations. And then, we built a fairly decent customer base and hype around it, which was amazing. And then it just, for me, it started to plateau. Like, it was very, very much collaboration based, which was amazing, and very much graphics based. And it got to the point where it was like, okay, cool, we've put X amount of money into it, we're making our money back, but we're not seeing any consistent growth. And I think that came from basing the brand's growth around other people's maybe other people's reach. So like by doing the collaborations, and then so I thought I need a strong name, and to make it more brand based, to be able to really turn it into a serious business. And then that's when actually Daniel from StreetX suggested Something Wonderful. He said, why don't you just shorten it, make the abbreviation into Something Wonderful? And then I've never looked back, to be honest. And then, yeah, it's just trying to build it into a recognizable brand, and get some nice retailers, build the customer base, work with amazing people. I mean, yeah, it's a dream, really. It's great.
Yeah, that's awesome. And it's so inspiring seeing someone just really living out that dream, taking a risk, going and doing something that they just love, and is just, like we spoke about before, it's just a collection of all your life interests, I suppose, into just one great big, thing that you can just be proud of.
Yeah, for sure.
That's awesome.
Thanks, man.
Yeah. Look, honestly, congratulations. Like, you're doing amazing things. But yeah, I mean, you spoke about just with SW69, would you say like the collaborations and that kind of stage, was it a limit on to your business, and is that something that is considered maybe just for early days in terms of clothing lines and like listeners that are thinking of doing collaborations?
Yep. Yeah, look, I think it's an integral part of any sort of business model these days is to collaborate, no matter what industry you're in, because it gives you access to each other's networks. It gives you gives trust to other customers, to new customers. That okay, cool, you're working with these other people that I already trust, which is kind of all about and building that community and that network. So I think for me with SW69, when I say I reached the ceiling, for me it was that we were relying so much on just collaborations that it was starting to feel like a brand that just did collaborations. So I wanted to take it back to make it more of a brand that could stand alone and build from that, if that makes sense. And then, like collaborations are epic. We've got collaborations planned and that's something that will never stop. But it can't just be. I felt like with SW69, I was falling into the trap of that was the main thing I was relying on to get sales and to grow the business without creating my own identity as just the brand.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think I totally agree with you. It's such a big thing. It's almost like, hijacking another audience. And it's probably not the right word, hijacking, because it has some quite negative connotations with it. But
yeah, for sure. I wouldn't say it's hijacking. It's, it's a two-way street, like each party needs to bring something to the table. And whether it's an artist brings their talent as an artist, and then we bring something wonderful as the platform to expose that artist's talent to our platform. That's a nice way of collaborating. Or it's working with, say, a bigger entity that maybe has something to do with a common interest of mine that means something to me or to the brand's ethos. Then those things are important. It's it's hijacked is probably the wrong word.
Yeah, well, I mean, it is definitely the wrong word, but anyway, so I mean, I think some listeners right now are thinking, like they're following you with, how SW69 never wanted to become a brand that was just collaborations, but maybe some listeners are listening and thinking, well, how do you even in the first place get onto these collaborations? Because I'm sure there's people out there, there's brands out there that are really looking to take hold of the opportunities that are presented when collaborating and taking hold of other audiences and just growing their community. So what are some practical things that some practical tips that you could provide listeners to actually getting onto other brands and to collaborate with them?
Absolutely. Look, Instagram's huge. It's it's a double-edged sword. It's a bit evil at the same time as being the most powerful business tool anybody's got within their reach. You can jump on Instagram, find somebody, brand or an artist that they like, and reach out to them. And it's that's one great way of doing it. I mean, we get heaps of DMs, and that's really great, but a lot of them get missed. So the best way is usually email. So if you think it really depends how active somebody is on Instagram and how often they're checking their DMs. But I would always send a DM and then follow up with an email, and they'd just say, "Hey, look, reach out, tell them a little bit about the brand, about myself, about what I have in mind for the collaboration," and then always mention that if they're an artist, we're happy to pay you. Like we're not asking you to do it for nothing. So what's your fee? Which is a nice way to follow up. You say, okay, cool. So for a graphic, what would your fee be? And then if it's a brand, obviously then you go into a further discussion of how you might want to split the stock, whether one brand carries the stock and covers the cost of it all, and it's just used as a marketing exercise for the other brand, or you split the stock and both pay half. There's many ways to collaborate with somebody. But yeah, I would suggest just a DM or an email or a face-to-face is even better. If you can meet somebody in person, It works wonders for your networking.
Yeah, no, that's great. On meeting in person, like where are these locations? Is this kind of just like, contacting them, let's meet for coffee, or is there certain conventions, or where would someone go and meet other brands with, find people with common interests that share an interest in business and do these similar types of things?
Yeah, for sure. I think a good one is pop-ups. So if you see a pop-up in your city of a brand you're interested in, go along to that pop-up, and then you're more than likely going to meet other small brand owners. You're going to meet the brand owners themselves that are doing the pop-up, which will always be happy to talk to you and give you any guidance. And like that's probably the best way to network, or not even network, just to feel out what the scene's like, in your town, in your city, wherever. And if not, there's plenty of like design hubs on the internet and brand hubs that host a lot of different people's graphics and a lot of different t-shirt companies and brand owners. There's lots of ways to find people with common interests like that. But yeah, definitely pop-ups are a great way to do that, for sure.
Yeah, I love that. And I've found even, just in the videography space and reaching out to different brands for this podcast even, and just lots of different things in the past. Look, brands they love it when it's personal and you put in the effort to learn about them, to and it's not just like a copy and paste email, but like making an effort to go out and visit the pop-ups is like such a great tip. And I've heard other things like handwriting letters and things like this and sending it to their address with a bag of Freddos. Like, how good is that? Like, who's not going to respond to that?
I wouldn't mind a bag of Freddos. That'd be pretty sweet.
Yeah, right. That would be pretty sweet.
Yeah, for sure. I think a lot of brand owners have started from you start from nowhere, right? And then you get to this point. So it's a long road to that point. And if you can see anybody else making that effort, it's a hard road. It's a lot of people would like to help you along that road. I think it says a lot about somebody's personality if they're happy to share information, to share their time. You know what I mean? I think it's important, because otherwise the whole culture goes away.
Yeah, and I think that the culture is such an integral part of this community, and in fact, it is the foundations. Like sure. It's how it started. It cultures everything. Yeah. I just on you spoke about it being quite a hard road on doing what you're doing, and those in this space will know that. So what are some of the major trials, particularly in the early days, SW69, and then even just starting out something wonderful, and maybe even before then, all the things that led up to that?
For sure. I think I'm not trained in graphic design. I'm not trained in running a brand or any brand building or whatever you want to call it. And so it's kind of like trial and error. Everything is. So there's a lot of money goes into it. Like I probably could have saved myself a lot of money by trying to slow down what I was doing. I like to do things fast. I like to grow fast. If I see a goal, I want to do it tomorrow, and I find it very frustrating if I can't reach that. So I would say plan things out, start talking to people. That's the best thing you can do, is lend ears from people that have experience. If you know somebody that's done, maybe a friend's made a t-shirt, you say, cool, how did you make that t-shirt? Can you show me how you screen printed it at home? Or can you show me how you used Illustrator or Photoshop or whatever you want to use, or you might have just cut it out of a stencil. I think just the starting point for you, everybody's going to be different, but talking to other people about what they've done is going to make that road a little bit easier for you. because but one of the major pitfall is like the hardest thing probably to start with is money. Like it costs money to run a brand. It costs money to get your first run of t-shirts printed. A lot of photographers get paid quite well. Same with designers. So that's probably a hard thing, is keeping your cash flow as well at that right point.
Yeah. That's massive. That's massive, absolutely. And I think probably a lot of people starting out can relate with the struggles in terms of, just like any sort of business, the start fund is always massive, and that's part of the risk involved.
Yeah, of course. But there's no saying you can't just go get yourself a couple of blank t-shirts and start spray painting on them or drawing on them with textures, and like there's no limit to your creativity. By all means, like you use whatever is within your grasp and put it out there. And if it resonates, it'll sell. I mean, you can just give it to people. Do what makes you happy. It's more about the passion than about the money.
Yeah. The only limit is the one we put on ourselves.
Yeah, that's a good one. You're not wrong.
Yeah.
So that's very. Yeah, I think. Yeah. I think maybe I was sounding a bit cynical as I've started to turn around into a bit of it's more of a business than it's still a very big passion of mine, but it's turned into a business. So I've had to think more like a businessman. But in the start, it was just all about just being creative, trying everything. Whatever medium would work on a cotton t-shirt, I gave it a shot. And whatever, I would just like be on blogs and on Instagram, just constantly looking for inspiration. And I still am all the time. That's the stuff that inspires you, like looking outwards and then trying to go and going, cool, how does that resonate with me? What's my idea? How am I going to make an impact? Like,
Yeah. No, that's great. Making an impact is, at the end of the day, number one. You want to, when you leave this world or whatever it is, you want to make sure that you've left something for your legacy.
Yeah, for sure.
That's big.
It's all about it. It's all about leaving a good legacy, isn't it?
A bit cliche, but it's a forever mindset and an important one at that.
Yeah, for sure. And I think you got to think like that. Otherwise, I don't know, if you're looking for an out all the time, you might be quite unsatisfying, Like if the further out you plan, the less maybe, like, you say, look, I'm going to leave a legacy. I'm just going to keep plodding along at this for 20, 30 years, however long you're going to plod along. That's a long time to build something. And that will leave a legacy. It'll leave a mark. Lots of people come and go. Lots of brands come and go. But if you can, I don't know. I'm a very young brand, but I believe that it's very much the long game,
Absolutely. And the long game is they're the people that are going to be successful. So big things in the future.
Oh, let's hope so, mate. Let's hope so.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Now, I just, maybe you touched on it a bit before, but there's a statement, growth isn't linear. Now, I'm sure you've heard it. I'm sure everyone listening's heard to it. But how would you say that you relate with that statement? How do you feel about that statement?
Oh, geez. I wish growth was linear. I wish it was a nice straight line up. Look, it's
what a perfect world.
Yeah.
Not even the diagonal. Just how about that?
No, that'd be incredible. I'll tell you what, my office wouldn't look this messy. It'd be all clean. I reckon I'd be cleaner by now. Look, I think that statement is probably correct if you zoom out. If you go from day one to day 365, you've got growth end to end. But if you zoom in on today or this week or this month, you might go, oh, look, we've seen a spike. That's great. We can, we've hit this. You might, that line from there to there might have spikes over it. But, like there's always down points. There's days we don't do sales. Sometimes there's a few days between sales. And that's, it's a pretty shit feeling, to be honest, because you're like, oh, I've risked a lot. Where's that gratification today? Where's that gratification of the hard work for the last few years? But then you'll do a release and you'll sell heaps of stuff and it's this never ending battle with your psyche. But yeah, like it's the friends of mine that have run successful businesses and brands, they go, always zoom out from thinking day to day and go, cool, where were we when we started? Where are we now? And as long as, over that period, you're still going up, then you know that you're on the right track. I think you got to start worrying when it's a steady decline down and doesn't come back up. Maybe you start looking at some new tricks, but that's, so in answer to your question, that's how I feel about it. It's like, it's I hate that metric. I hate comparing myself to the growth, because it's not like you're on, no matter how much effort you're putting in, it may not resonate. So it's hard to, you just got to keep on grinding, keep putting the same effort in over and over again. And it slowly goes up and down, up and down, up and down. And then that's your long-term growth, is consistency.
Yeah. I love that. Consistency is massive, and sometimes it's hard to find the motivation in those down points. But yeah, consistency at the end of the day is what's going to win. Because if you may not find the winning idea this time, but consistency means that you try again. You test that idea, and if it doesn't work, you try something else, and that's persistence.
It's about the journey. And that's what. I found myself in the past, and I've spoken to other people about it as well, as they get lost in maybe today and not think about the long-term picture. And I'm definitely guilty of it. But then you got to think about the process. What makes you happy? For me, it's the process of getting whatever we make to market. And so that process I enjoy. Whether it sells or not, that's the creativity side of it. That's the exciting part of it for me. And then I'm trying to train myself to be in the mindset of going, whether we sell anything or not, the journey we took from creating something that didn't exist to existing was great. That was the thrilling bit. Like, the sales are the byproduct of that process, creative process.
Yeah.
And that's something more tangible, and you're like, cool, that made me feel good. I'm going to make something else. And it's like, great, that resonated with this group of people. That's incredible.
Yeah, for sure. And it's holding off on that, like short-term gratification is the killer, because we all long for it. But
for sure, dopamine hits. We all want them.
Oh yeah. Look, and it's definitely evident that you're doing what you love. But has your business ventures, have they ever taken a toll on your mental health, and how have you dealt with that?
Yeah, for sure. Like, I think it's a very personal thing, doing anything creative, putting yourself out there in any way. It's very personal, and particularly not, you can work a 9 to 5 for somebody else, and that's sweet. That's a guarantee, right? You're getting a paycheck. You put in X amount of hours, you get your hourly wage at the end of the week or fortnight, and that's great. But when you're running something like a brand, or you're an artist, that you can't put a value on your hourly rate, and it's all about passion, and you put so much of your heart and soul into it, and then maybe all of a sudden you can't pay your bills. Like, that's stressful. And I think that's something that a lot of creative people go through, and a lot of brands go through, and that's why a lot of people stop pursuing maybe their creative endeavors or their dreams, and maybe succumb to the man and need to work a 9 to 5, which, I work a 9 to 5 as a carpenter, and I run the brand in my spare time, which is kind of another full-time job these days, with help from a few different people. And it's, that's the only way we'd be able to survive, because, there's not, even at the point we're at, there's still not that a lot of money in it. Like, it's a long-term journey. So it's just about, just keep on keeping on, keep on grinding, and just, like it can definitely be very taxing on your mental health. You just got to take a minute and think about why you're doing it. Does it make you happy? And what portion of what you're doing, whatever your creative endeavor is doing to make you happy, that's what you should focus on. yeah, I mean, it's yeah, that's it.
Yeah, great. Look, a story is extremely inspiring to anyone. So, is there any specific stories that you are open to share with listeners about maybe some of the down points in your business and how you overcame them?
Yeah, for sure. Cool. So, what's some down points? Look, it's hard. It's hard to now that I'm talking about zooming out. There's no down points, but like there's definitely times when we have released something and it's sold terribly, and we've risked maybe more of our seasonal budget on that release. And so that's made us feel that's made me feel really down, like a bit like you failed, like, oh, okay, cool, I've maybe overextended myself here. And then the best thing for me personally is to take stock of exactly what the brand means to me, and I could go, cool, I could quit tomorrow, wipe my hands off it, and then it's done. But then you fail. Like, you can't, like, to me, failure is not an option. I just got to keep on going. But for my mental health, you got to exercise. You got to talk to your friends. You've got to talk to your family. And if you're feeling down about anything, like, it's good to just vocalize it. I think there used to be a big stigma about men not talking about their feelings, but I think that's, you've got to do it. You've got to talk to people. If you're not feeling great, talk to a psychologist. If you're not feeling great physically, do some exercise, go for a walk, and then before long you're rested and you're ready to go again.
Yeah, for sure. And that's great advice that I know someone needs to hear, myself included. Sometimes I just need to get myself out of the house and, get some fresh air, and that's all I need.
Totally. Just, going for a walk, being in nature, like taking a minute for yourself is amazing. I think one thing I've kind of started over the last few years to incorporate into my lifestyle is like breathing exercises. And I'm a bit too fidgety for meditation, but I definitely listen to meditations and try and let myself be immersed in it. But even that is just an amazing thing, just to try to focus inwards on yourself for a bit. Some nice deep breathing to calm your anxiety, to quell your thoughts can work wonders.
Yeah, that's great. And do you think these steps that you're taking to really work on your own mental health has contributed to the success of your business or where you are today?
Yep, definitely. I can confidently say that it has definitely helped. Like, I go through bouts of feeling quite flat and then catching myself and going, okay, cool, I need to pay more attention to myself and take a minute to think about what I'm doing, about how I feel about it. And, like, it always comes back to you focusing on you, whether it's your personal life, whether it's, your business life or at work. You need to do what's right by you. And if you need to rest, you need to rest. And it's definitely helped me, look from a further out perspective rather than looking at release per release, like I was talking about before. It's looking and going, cool, this year we're going to do this. And if we can approach this many people, we can do this. It's going to be the next year, it's going to be this. And then you go, cool. Then you zoom out to 10 years and you're like, okay, cool. So that's a lot less pressure on you as a person if you think longer term than going, my short-term goal is to have a Ferrari in the driveway next week and you've got $20 in your bank account. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, cool, all right, that's attainable maybe in 15 years. Who knows? You might, might be quicker, whatever. Like, that's amazing if you can. But I think that's a big one for me, is being able to focus longer term and not so much on the, like, don't sweat the small stuff. It's a journey and you've just got to, not worry about if you fall over, you got to get back up, right? And you just got to keep on going. The race isn't over.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's look, we keep coming back to the long-term game, but that's what it is. That's
For
all
sure.
it is.
For sure. And
Yeah.
that's, the reason why I keep coming back to that is because that's something for me that's stuck in my mind over the last few years of maybe played on my mind a lot was thinking too short term. I think that is like a lot of people, they want something that maybe isn't accessible straight away. We live in that digital age where we can get whatever we want tomorrow, if it's attainable. So why not? Like, I don't see why we aren't applying that to our lives. And that's how I was feeling. I was like, cool, why have I not got what you compare yourself to other brands? And you're like, cool, why is this brand doing so good? Or, maybe they're not doing that great, whatever. Like, it's all about just, thinking long-term with everything, like you don't go to school or to uni and you're not done in a week, are you? It takes years to learn. It takes years to learn.
Yeah, I know. I'm definitely also guilty of some days just, thinking in the short term and not kind of taking a step back and looking at the long-term goals that I've set for myself and, my own endeavors. So look, this question's really for me. How do you get out of that short-term thinking? You personally, on those days that maybe you're, feeling a little bit flat, do you have a strategy or is there some practical steps that you apply?
If I'm feeling frustrated with where we're at with the brand, focusing on the short term, I need to unplug. I need to put my phone down. I need to shut the laptop. I need to do something for myself. Like, I've just had a beautiful little girl and I've got a great partner. So that's where I'm finding a lot of my joy at the moment, is spending time with them. And that's my downtime. And that's that brings me back to ground zero for myself, where I'm like, cool, I feel focused and re-energized after I've spent time with them. It used to be I'd go for a surf, or I'd go for a run, or, you go meet up with some mates. However, I think sometimes you need to walk away from the situation that's frustrating you to move beyond and make it grow from there, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, that does totally. And just spending time with people that you love, that's
for sure, man. All that matters. It's like, at the end of the day, we're just making clothes, and it is a great creative endeavor, but the most important thing is other people and spend time with the people that you care about. Like, life's pretty short. You gotta make the most of your connections with people.
Yeah, for sure. And it's interesting how it's a little bit almost counterintuitive, like your first thought is like, I'm thinking in the short term, like I got to work. But, really it's like, okay, no, take a step back, let's put this down for a bit. Let's turn off our phones. Let's turn off our laptops. Let's put the work down for the night. Like, grinding and hustling is great and all for it. And sometimes it's what it takes. But, to be capable of doing that and to really want it is to sometimes to make sacrifices, even in business.
Yeah, for sure. And it's about having the balance. And that's what you hear a lot of very successful entrepreneurs and brand owners and sports people, everybody. You need that balance to be able to live a healthy, mentally healthy lifestyle. Like, you can work yourself to the bone and maybe you never hit gold, and if that's all you're focused on, you're not going to be very fulfilled, right? And you'll be pretty sad about it. So if you can have a nice balance where you're getting fulfillment out of other things, and then the shit things of one or the other kind of weigh each other out, and you're like, well, life's really actually pretty amazing. Like, what's to worry about? At the end of the day, that's what you got.
Yeah, for sure. No, this is great stuff. Thanks for this, Dean. I really appreciate it.
Mate, thank you for approaching me. I think it's congratulations on your podcast. It's amazing that you're putting yourself out there. It's brilliant.
Yeah. I just want to make a bit of a pivot. Look, I want to be mindful of your time. I have a few more questions that I want to ask you. but just make a bit of a pivot to kind of looking at really the nitty gritty, the business side. What is something wonderful looking like today? And, so I suppose my question is, like, what is marketing to you? What does it look like in your brand? Do you have employed some sort of content strategy? Talk to me about that.
Yeah, cool. So I've been really bad in the last, actually since I started the brand. I've always worked to a loose schedule, and I'm trying to nail down a proper schedule now. And if Lewis, who does my ads, ever listens to this, he'll laugh because I'm terrible with the schedules. I'm always giving him content the day I'm releasing instead of 2 weeks before, like I'm supposed to. So look, that's, like I mentioned earlier, is planning things out. So our content strategy or brand strategy is consistency, and I think the brand's lacked a lot of consistency to really drive the business side of it. So that's, that again comes down to the learning curve of, if you need to make X amount of sales to pay your rent, then you need to work backwards from that. And then it's like, cool, we need to release this often because it keeps engagement up. And so it's all about just consistency. I'm always on Instagram, but I don't post a lot on Instagram, which I should, because of my own questioning my own content. That I'm like, I don't post that. I'm like, I don't want to be that guy that posts 50 photos of the same product, because to me that's not very interesting. And I've looked at the product probably for 6 months before you guys said. So it's a bit, I'm like, I'm not going to post that. Where reality is, I should be posting at least every second day, I think, to keep that consistency, the growth, keep people engaged. So that's what we're working on at the moment, is a more consistent plan going forward, and working back from the release schedule. That is, then you work back to your designs, and then your sampling, and then production. Like it's a 6 to 12 month process for a lot of this stuff. Working that way. Yeah. And then we've just got a friend of mine, Rory, is doing our email strategy and marketing for us now as well. And then I've been talking with a PR firm about maybe partnering with them and taking advantage of their networks in the entertainment industry and influencer industry. But I'm just trying to figure out what the best route is. It's, again, it's become a business, so I've got to approach it as a business.
Yeah,
that's our marketing strategy. Is like world domination. So,
no, that's great. That sounds like a perfect marketing strategy to me. Yeah, but look, it sounds like now you're at the point where you're getting, maybe some employees or commissioning out some work of these, maybe some of these skills that you find some of your weaknesses in. Look. Yeah, how have you what are the ways what are some of the things you've put in place to get to that point, or what has it taken to get to the point where you're hiring people and passing out work?
That's a good question. Look, in all honesty, I've put a lot of you've always got to put a little bit more money into the brand. I probably don't run it lean enough for it all to, so I don't take a wage from it, is what I'm trying to say. And I don't, I have people on like a monthly retainer. So I've got the guy that runs our ads for us, Lewis, he's on like a monthly retainer. And that comes out of the sales from the brand. So just built it to that point where that comes out of that. And then the other money goes into Facebook ads, and then other money goes into leasing a space. So yeah, it's a slow build. You just got to get there. It's some months it's like, oh shit, how are we going to pay the bills? But then other months it's like, we got heaps of money. Great, let's spend it on doing up the office, or setting up something else, or the next range, and building from there. It's all a bit of a juggle. But it's time is basically the answer. Is time is how we've built the customer base to be able to pay for other services. But very early on, I was approaching people about Facebook ads, though, even, as maybe not as soon as maybe after our first release as SW69, I had somebody off Upwork or one of those online services. He was doing some ad reaches for us.
Yeah, great.
And it's very effective, and it's definitely getting harder. It's very competitive, which is fine, but I think it's like a pay to play system these days.
Yeah.
And you got to be in it, unfortunately.
Yeah. And yeah, like, how did that work, particularly in the first time? I mean, are you comfortable opening the curtains on some of the numbers?
Yeah, look, I think I think the guy is actually a chap from the UK, and he set up the first ads that we had, and I think I paid him, maybe it was a $500 fee to set up the campaigns. And he set up a bunch of campaigns based on what the releases I had that were coming, and then I think we put 500 into the ad spend, and that was it. And then we saw how it went, and it sold really well, actually, which is great for the first time.
What kind of returns did you see from that?
Off the top, I wouldn't be able to tell off the top of my head. I know we definitely we doubled our money, which is it's okay for a brand. For the first time we tried, and then that was when I was like, okay, cool, this works. And it was more about building the awareness. I think that's the biggest thing is you need to constantly be building awareness, and falling short of doing a pop-up every weekend or a collaboration every weekend, it's a pretty good way of building awareness.
Yeah, that's great. And it ties in perfectly, where there's the 3 stages of content where you have, your awareness and your discovery and your decision. It's just like about customer journey, and then that sales funnel that you really want to, get onto when running a business, particularly in fashion, when you're in the business of wants and not needs.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, if you know any experts on the funnel, send them my way, because we can always do with some help. The bigger the funnel, the better, Well, that's probably the wrong analogy. I think it's better. The smaller the funnel is actually the better, but,
it is. Yeah, that also in a way is a little bit counterintuitive in that, the more niche and specialized, some people use the analogy like, you got to, there's a trillion fish in the sea, and if you're going after all of them, then you get more fish. But really, it's like you have the same size net. All you is when you specialize, you're fishing in a bucket, and then although you only have 1,000 fish, you get all of them. So
that's great. That's good.
Yeah,
you should do your own catchphrase for that, I reckon.
Yeah, maybe we'll see. Yeah. Well, look, just before I leave you, what are some final knowledge nuggets that you can share with the listeners?
Knowledge nuggets. Okay. What have I got for it?
What's the best you've got? I want to hear it.
Whoa. Don't do anything that you don't want to do. Do what makes you happy, basically. And if you can do whatever makes you happy from a young age, you're going to live an amazing life. Follow your dreams, follow your passions. Speak to travel, talk to as many people as you can. Like the more diverse opinions you have of the world, from different perspectives, it's just going to make you such a well-rounded business person and creative.
Yeah, great. And what's next on the horizon for Something Wonderful, or even Dean Carnemolla? What are we looking at for the future?
Looking at the future, I think short term we've got a summer release in the works coming up, and then working on next year's winter. But yeah, look, just keep on building on our stockist list, which has grown substantially in the last 12 months, which is amazing. Keep on working on our customer, retention, keeping people happy like yourself, and reaching out more, maybe putting more of myself out on the brand's socials to know that we're real people. We're not some huge entity that's trying to take your money. We're just having a go.
Real people.
We're just real people, and we want people to wear. I think that's the hardest thing, putting yourself out there. I'm not very good at putting myself out there in maybe the way you need to for a brand, but we'll learn. We'll figure it out.
Yeah. Great. Look, Dean, thanks so much for coming on today's episode. I really appreciate it. I think I myself and definitely the listeners have learnt something at the very least. can go away saying, I'm happy I was here speaking to you today and also listen. So, but if listeners want to find out more about Something Wonderful or yourself, where can they find you?
Yeah, cool. I guess Instagram, everyone's on it. You go to, we're at somethingwonderful.store. And yeah, shoot us a DM, reach out. If you want to have a chat, you want to learn about a brand, I mean, I can teach you as much as I know, which may not be the right stuff, but you definitely have to figure that out for yourself, you know. But yeah, I want to thank you for having us on the podcast and for, you know, taking the initiative to do something for yourself. It's incredible.
Yeah, great. And this is, I hope it's been as valuable to you as it has been to me, because yeah, this was just great. But thanks very much, Dean. And yeah, hopefully speak to you again soon. We might see, hey?
Yeah, for sure. Let's do it.